Hello, everybody. It is I, Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, here with my impressions of the PC port for Nier Replicant. Because this port is kind of bad. Like, yeah, it just kind of is. So you'll see in the top left I have the Steam overlay for the FPS of the game. Top left, and you'll notice that it never goes above 60. I had to manually force NVIDIA to tell this game never to go above 60, for a very particular reason. Well, not like this game could actually get above 60 on my rig for some unknown reason, despite the fact that this game looks like a PS3 game. So this port is pretty bad, and the speed of the game is tied to the frame rate, which I'm sure you've all heard by now if you're interested in this game. This baffles me. How in 2021 you can have a PC release of a game that actually has the speed and flow of the game tied to its freaking frame rate. Who does that nowadays? Well, now we know actually who does it. It's freaking Nier Replicant. So, I'm going to leave in the description down below a potential fix for that, because I believe it also works for AMD, but AMD has like a separate control panel that you have to use. I'm on NVIDIA with my 1070, so I was able to go into the NVIDIA control panel, go to manage 3D settings, and then in program settings, if Nier Replicant wasn't already there, you can add a program and just add Nier Replicant if you already have it downloaded. Then you go down to the max frame rate and just set it to 60, because 60 seems, from what I've heard, 60 seems to be the FPS that this game is supposed to be run at. Which is good, because even when I uncap the frame rate, this game can barely get above 60. It can alternate between 70 and 80 sometimes, but maybe it's because this area is particularly heavy in foliage. So maybe that has something to do with the game running like absolute crap sometimes, because my rig with these graphics should be able to push this a lot further. Also, there was this weird thing where I turned the game off after I recorded my first video yesterday, right? Well, second video as well, because I did two back to back. And I turned it off, I wanted to play again, so I turned it back on later on. And the game was just capped to 48 FPS. I'm like, wait a minute, why? Why is it doing this for? So I did some digging, and I found the article I have linked in the description down below, by the people over at, just pull up my notes here, GamerJournalist.com, that says, okay, well, the game itself might not actually be using your GPU, which baffled me. So, in the same program settings for Nier Replicant, you scroll down like 4 settings past max frame rate for me. You have OpenGL rendering GPU. I had to manually set that to GeForce GTX 1070, or for you guys, it would be your native graphics card, the one that you want the game to be run on. And then also, the setting right below that, again, for me, it might be different for you. Power management mode, I set that to prefer maximum performance. These are the guidelines that the article, again, which is linked down below, recommended. I activated those settings, and I'm back to around 60 FPS. The game does dip below 60 FPS, as you can see. With me just standing here, I was going down to 56. The game still flows pretty well. And the game is still pretty fun to play. Like, 60 FPS is a playable frame rate for me. I don't mind 60 FPS. Hell, I played Final Fantasy VII Remake at 30, begrudgingly. But for a game like this, when I can run games like Doom and Doom Eternal, and hell, even The Witcher, at Witcher 3, at way higher frame rates on the same rig, and this game is like struggling to maintain 60 sometimes, it just kind of baffles me, really. So, yeah. Optimization of this game is not the strong suit of this game, as we kind of come to expect. Let's go into the options menu. So we have language settings. I actually haven't looked at this yet. We have voice, text, and subtitles, which I like. Keyboard layout, AZERTY, QWERTY. So I am on QWERTY, so I'm just going to keep it like that. Then for the game settings, I like this. It's always something I really appreciate about Nier Automata as well, is that you can really customize the HUD. And I hated that Automata kind of tied it to your power-ups as well. But that's besides the point. So you can turn vibration auto off. I turned it off. And you can disable the entire HUD if you want to, which is probably good for like video making or for screenshots. You can also engage like HP and MP gauges, enemy HP gauges, boss HP gauges, if you want those separately. Like, natively, I believe this game is at default having boss HP gauges on, while enemy HP gauges are off, which is why, if you saw my first video that went up yesterday, you'll notice that all of the smaller shades that I fought didn't have HP gauges, but the boss did. This is why. So, you also have text log, acquired items, combo counter, minimap, yada yada yada. You also have inactive playset control behavior when the game is not in the active window. What this does freaking eludes me. But auto sprint, which is something I do appreciate. I like having multiple forms of sprint so I can just be comfortable. Like, I like having auto sprint on personally. Enabling auto sprint will cause the player to automatically start sprinting if they run for long enough. Generally, that's not an issue for me, but sometimes I forget. And then I like how, unlike Persona 5 Strikers, which I played like a couple of months back, I like how in the game itself it has an option for this, just manually, so you don't have to actually reconfigure the control scheme. It's just, okay, do you want to have the menu confirmation be A or B for the controller? And essentially what this is do you want the Xbox layout and PlayStation layout, or do you want the Nintendo Switch layout? That's essentially what this option is. I appreciate that it's in-game and that it's an upfront clear options menu item like this, and you don't actually just have to remap the controller. It's always annoying when games do that. Camera, you have vertical orientation, you can invert or not. I don't invert because I like, normalcy. You have camera distance, which is pretty nice. You can adjust how far the camera is positioned from the player in both standard and combat. I'm assuming this is going to help with some people who might suffer from motion sickness with games like these. So if you can adjust your camera if need be. I think that's a pretty nice setting. Or just not even for like a medical reason like that, just for a comfort standard. Like maybe you just like having a camera that's really far panned out from the character. Let's just test what this looks like. Light changes. See, it's a little farther back. Not much, but it's something. Actually, I'd probably keep that. So let's go back into camera. And then camera distance for combat, I'll probably up that as well. So yeah. You also have camera sensitivity as normal. I keep it like this because it's pretty good for me right now if I need to adjust that. Horizontal rotation auto adjust how much delay there is when moving the camera horizontally. You can adjust delay, huh? Interesting. So let's turn that down. And let me show off what this does. So you can see, so that setting is essentially just acceleration for the camera. So let me go back into that setting. Let's set it up all the way. Go max horizontal adjust and vertical rotation auto adjust. Save these settings and let's see what happens here. So yeah, so it's not accelerating. It's just going at its max pace. Which I'll probably keep. I don't know why the game has it set for anything other than this. Maybe they feel it's more cinematic or something. I don't know. Screen shaking, disable, put this on or off as well. Lock on speed as well. Automatic tracking speed. You have a whole bunch of actual camera stuff here, which is I like to see. I think they did a pretty decent job with the camera section there. And then for the graphic settings, this is the one that's giving a bit of controversy because it doesn't have VSync. I always turn VSync off, so it doesn't bother me personally, but if it bothers you, then just be aware that this game does not have a VSync option. I'll actually just show you, see? Though, even on PC, it does have a performance mode. What this setting does freaking alerts me, because whenever I turn it on, I might save like 5 or so frames. Maybe, if that. And again, the idea for this game, because the speed of the game's tied to the FPS, you want to freaking be at around 60 mils at a time anyways. So getting more FPS is kind of an issue, because the game runs faster. Supposedly. Again, I haven't been able to get that frame rate where that actually would matter for me. I haven't been able to particularly notice that. When the game was stuck to 48 FPS, I did feel like a slight input delay. the controls. Not entirely sure the cause of that, because sometimes it still feels like it's there. Let me show you. I'm going to hit the button, and you can just see the slight delay. Well, the trigger's not actually the best measure for that. It's not that much input delay, but it feels like there's like a frame or so difference. Or I'm just being like overtly nitpicky. It's one of the two. Just be aware if that's an issue. Maybe do some more research on that in your own times. So yeah, back to the options menu here. We have graphics presets for like go low, medium, or high. You can also have custom, so if you set anything to itself, it immediately goes to a custom preset. Yeah, I'm running the game at 1080p. So again, it's not like I'm running the game at 4K or anything. I'm running it at 1080 on full screen. We also have anti-aliasing. I do hate it when games do this, especially something I'm noticing a lot in more modern games for PC, is how they neglect to inform the consumer about what type of anti-aliasing or they're using in this game. I don't know why they're doing this. Just give us the options. Which is like tell us the anti-aliasing that's being used. Texture filtering, again, a lot of this options when you use a bog standard stuff. We have shadows here. I'll just keep it on high. Ambient Occlusion, which I have heard is another source of FPS drop in this game, mainly because of all the foliage and the grass and all that kind of stuff. Again, trying to hover around 60, so oh well. Reflections as well. Level of detail and faraway objects. So you have some options here for those who may need it, depending upon how much your rig struggles with this game. And again, you have a performance mode here, which is a kind of an interesting way to go about a performance mode, because it's not trying to target a specific frame rate necessarily. It prioritizes a high frame rate by reducing resolution when processing load is high. So essentially, when the game has a bunch to process, that's when it's going to try and prioritize a high frame rate, not a lot of these static settings. Now, again, basic sound options here. Voice, system settings, game sounding, and music. Bob's your uncle there. Auto battle standards. I'm on hard mode, so you can only really have this on easy, so I can't really tell you about that. And this is kind of nice. You can customize your control scheme for keyboard, or even here as well, which is nice to see. And they also have some right and left-handed presets, which is again nice to see. I'm all on board for that. I don't see any accessibility options though, so I haven't seen any colorblind modes or anything pertaining to that, which is a red flag for those who may need or like to have those options. Just be aware of that. Other than that, I mean, gameplay's smooth enough. I haven't noticed any other issues pertaining to the port. I haven't had any crashes, anything along those lines. The game's been running pretty stable. It's just it has that FPS issue, which I've been talking about. Yeah, those are my impressions of the port for Nier Replicant for Steam on the PC. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. If you liked the video and you want to see more content, I know I would appreciate it. Stay safe out there. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.